Can I just talk about some of the big event risks for Europe in particular? We've been talking today about Gazprom, but there's a huge focus on Nord Stream 1 and whether there's further cuts to gas supply from Russia, with certain modelling out there in the marketplace about some sort of economic hit to Europe to the tune of about 1.5% of GDP. On top of that, of course, we're waiting for the ECB. So what are the event risks that you see around these two big factors?
A huge risk around them, huge risk. And this is certainly the topic of conversation I'm having on all my calls with clients. So on the Nord Stream pipeline, I think the chances of that being completely cut are very low. That's in nobody's real incentive. But if that were to happen, if you were to see a complete curtailment of gas, particularly to Germany and Italy, I would say that number of 1 to 1.5% fall in GDP is probably on the low side. I think it would be bigger than that. 3% or so hit to German and Italian GDP seems quite likely, given how dependent they are on those flows of gas. However, I think a much more likely scenario is that flows are ramped back up again after this maintenance period, but you may see them, just not at the 100% capacity that they were previously. So that's still a little bit of a hit to production, a hit to GDP. It will keep market risk premium relatively high. And then on the ECB, you're right, they look likely to be raising rates this week. We think 25 basis points. That will be their first rate hike this cycle. But they have got a really tricky path to follow, haven't they? We've got, there's risk around the Nord Stream pipeline. We've got economic growth anyway starting to slow. I mentioned those PMIs coming down, the market expecting it to slow, this higher cost of living and inflation. And at the same time, they're worried about inflation. They want to bring it down and they need to raise rates. They're currently still deeply negative.
Sharon, very informative as ever.